Lauren Booth. She's a journalist, a human rights activist, especially for the Palestinian cause. She's done so much. Please welcome Lauren Booth.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Assalamu alaikum. I want to say this brother here is lethal. I have never seen such a good fundraiser. I've sat through all sorts in London, and this guy is excellent in the name of Allah, alhamdulillah. And we have some more news. I would like to donate, says this piece of paper that was handed in, $5,000 on behalf of my parents who are alive. Can you please make dua for them? Sister Michelle, thank you very much. $5,000 on top. Well done, everyone. There is not a chance that I could have seen this live for myself. But I'll tell you what, had I seen how happy I am a year ago, I would have been very pleased and very grateful for the path that I've been led to take, alhamdulillah, for my luck. Some of you will know me as the sister-in-law of a once powerful oppressor of human beings. Sorry, the Middle East envoy Tony Blair, as he likes to be known. And hopefully others of you will also be aware that my real job title is presenter and broadcaster. But I'd like to tonight, if I may, share with you my journey to Islam. Because being a Muslim, I now understand how spiritually uplifting it is to see someone take the shahada like that. I was crying. Alhamdulillah to you, brother, wherever you are, and may this community show you the same love that has been poured like a deluge upon me in the last 6 months. I pray for you that you feel that same love. So I'd like to take you on how this journey happens. To someone who outwardly seemed like the very epitome and was of a Western journalist with a lifestyle completely at odds with the values and the processes and the choices inherent in being a worshipper and a servant of Allah. Because this is a very interesting concept. I'll come to it maybe if I remember later, but this idea of willing servitude. When you come from the media, where you are God, and then you put your head to the floor, and you actually pray to God, and you submit yourself. That in itself is a journey, but I'm going too fast. Let me take you back, if I may. When I was a child, I grew up in your average North London household in the 70s, which is to say that both my parents were drunk a lot of the time. My father was a lapsed Catholic. That means that he drank a lot of Guinness and got a lot of women pregnant. He also used to sing hymns when he'd had a drink. It sounds a lot gloomier than it was, and this isn't a knocking Catholicism, but there is a lifestyle that means that secularism has overtaken the popularity of belief in our communities in Britain. My mother was what you might be able to call perhaps a superstitious Christian. So she would never go to church, and she'd never talk about religion, but she would hang crosses around her bed to ward off evil spirits. So those symbols were there in life. But funnily enough, growing up, I used to pray. I loved it. I remember that feeling of being 7 years old and going to my bed and putting my hands together and going, please, God, let Mummy and Daddy be nicer to me tomorrow. Please, God, let my sister stop being really annoying. because kids know how to ask for everything, because they automatically believe that someone up there is bigger than their parents and will really help them when they need it. Isn't that interesting? What I've noticed recently, I'm going to jump forward a bit. I've got jet lag, so if I jump forward and none of it makes sense, will you bear with me, please? Yes, I've already lost that point. Wake up, brain. Okay, we'll go back to the beginning. So when I was growing up, when I was a teenager, you sort of stop praying because you get into the cult of the self. My dad was a socialist. He was a good man like that. Politically, he said to me, he gave me good values in many ways. He said, you know what? You're white. You're in London. You're not bad looking. You've got a fair intellect. You've won the lottery of life. Now, what are you going to do for the rest of the world? This is how we were brought up when I was a child. And the other thing he used to say, I remember crying once because we couldn't afford toilet paper. So we used to have to use newspaper in the bathroom. And I remember going in to him at 10 years old and saying, Dad, I've just realized we're poor. And he looked at me and said, because he was from Liverpool, a really poor family, he said, poor? We're not poor, we're broke. And what are you using in the bathroom? Are you using the Sun newspaper? No, you're using the Guardian. This is not poverty, this is aspiration. I thought that was brilliant. I've never looked at the Guardian the same since. And quite frankly, some of the things that's written about Islam now, I'm thinking of going back and using it for the same thing. So we had some values, but none of them were linked to religion. And as I became in my 20s, I became what I thought was a goddess. I was at drama school, I was acting, I was attractive to men, I was drinking. God became a sideline, a little important voice that had once been there for me, and I didn't need him anymore. As Nietzsche said, God is dead and we killed him. And that cold gathering, that cold, stony exterior started to form on my heart. And I knew I didn't like it, but I was happy in my life, and I was lucky, and I was making my own luck. It was me. I was the mistress of the universe. How clever of me to get work. How clever of me to get luck. But you know, within all of that, I always did feel lucky, and I always did feel grateful. And when I did remember to show some gratitude, I would pray. So what did I know about Islam then in this growing up? There were only 3 Muslim girls at my school when I was growing up. And what I knew about Islam was this. Muslim girls were really killer at science. They were way better than me at maths, and they didn't date boys as teenagers. That was it. Now, considering the drama in the newspapers post 9/11 about this community waiting with knives to slit our throats and guns to attack us and planes to crash on us, how come it was so quiet before 9/11? Was everybody just waiting for that signal? Or was there no signal? Was there no 9/11? We won't get into that. So what did I know about Islam in 2004? Well, I was having a bit of an awakening, because the thing about 9/11 is it wasn't just a clarion call for the people who wanted to find a new enemy, for people whose lives had become so materialistic that they enjoyed war. If we're not having a Cold War, if we're not having a Second World War, what war can we have to justify our emptiness inside? It wasn't just awakening for them, you know. Many of the imams amongst you will know that after 9/11, the sale of Qurans in the United States and the United Kingdom shot up. People with wondering minds, people with curious minds thought, what is Islam? Who are these people who have been silently waiting to kill us? I was one of those people. I wanted to find out more. And at the same time, Just slightly before that, I remember seeing some news footage from Palestine. There are some images that are iconic and so deeply moving that they do something to your soul. One of these images you'll remember, and I'll put it into your mind now, and you won't be grateful that I've done it, but I have to. A girl running with napalm on her back, screaming. Remember that from Vietnam? That awful image, you can see it. Well, I'll give you another image now. One that has stayed with me for 11 years and will never go. A young boy with a stone in his hand, doing this as a tank bears down on him. I can tell you that boy's name. That boy is Faris Ode. He was an early teenager from Rafah in Gaza. And soon after that picture was taken, he was shot in the head by an Israeli sniper. Another mother mourning another child in a place I'd hardly heard of.